This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs wide.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Brandon! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do. Taylor one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic! He's through here! And in the end, Forest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it. Yeah! Forest are Premier League!
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Red Side of the Trent as we go through our end of season awards with a full house, which includes Adam Wicklow, Christian Brown and Lee Clark. So without further ado, we'll get straight into it. So we did actually make some pre-season predictions back in, I'm guessing probably would have been July, August time now, maybe. So I'll go in name order. So start with you, Adam. So you had Forest to finish. I mean, we all didn't think we'd get a deduction, did we? So it is one of them, I guess. But you had Forest to finish in 14th. Champions, Manchester City, which was spot on. And then relegation, you got 2 out of 3. So you got Sheffield United and Luton. And the other one you had was Everton. So
I went far off.
No, not too bad.
I thought Burnley just stunk out the gaff, didn't they?
Yeah, which none of us actually had Burnley to be relegated, which was interesting. We must have all got caught up in the media hype, which we were slagging off last week. So, Christian, you had Forest to finish a place high in 13th. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Champions, again, Manchester City. And then relegated, Sheffield United and Luton, which was spot on. But the team who actually did a lot better than people expected was Wolverhampton Wanderers. So, unfortunately, they stay in the league next season. Lee, so you was a bit closer. So you went for 16th for Forest. Champions Manchester City, which was correct. Relegated Sheffield United and Luton, as we all had, and the other relegated team you went for was Fulham, who I think finished about halfway up, didn't they, in the end. And myself, I was again one place higher than you, Lee. I went for 15th. Champions Manchester City, which clean sweep for that, and then relegated Sheffield United and Luton again, and also I went for Wolves to be relegated. So yeah, he did a pretty good job, Gary O'Neill did in the end, after the fraud that is Julian Lopetegui said he couldn't get a tune out of him. So so that was that basically. So we'll crack on with the awards for the season. So again, I'll go round in name order. So I'll start with you, Adam, and we'll start with player of the season. So I want the top 3 and then go from third up until obviously who wins it.
All right. Well, I think there's going to be. I think the top 2 are pretty sorted for everyone, aren't they? I think third is the one who you kind of a bit unsure of. But
We'll see.
I've gone Chris Wood at third because I just think without his goals we wouldn't be still in the Premier League. I thought. We all said if he got between 5 and 10 goals this season as this rotation striker, we'd all be pretty happy. But to score 14 Premier League goals is pretty remarkable. And to be fair, since that Spurs howler, he could have even had 20 if he all the chances he had, including the one at Spurs, the couple at Everton, the couple at Sheffield United. I think at home he missed a few ones against City. Yes. He could have easily got to 20 goals and pushed Cole Palmer and Erling Haaland for the Golden Boot.
Chelsea was one as well, weren't they?
Yeah, because he weren't like he was, apart from the City ones, it weren't like he was snatching at those chances. He was getting good contact. Just weren't going in the goal for him. But yeah, Chris Wood at third. I've got Morgan Gibbs-White second, and I vote Murillo as player of the season through the official website. I just thought it was a really tough one, but I thought with Murillo just coming to the Premier League, I think all of us will echo this. He'd played less than 30 games for Corinthians, and we all thought, well, he'll just probably get drip fed in, and we won't probably see much of him. But he's been an absolute revelation, and it's no wonder why he's been linked with every Tom, Dick, and Harry in Europe. So yeah, we'll be lucky if we can keep him for another season. But he's been a pleasure to watch.
I think he's played more minutes than any 21 and under in the top 5 European
Yeah,
league?
I think I've seen that. And
I'm
I mean,
guessing
he's
counting Corinthians in that as well.
and I think since that Brentford game where he debutised, I don't think he's missed a game. So yeah, and even in all the times where he's like limped off, and I just think, oh god, he's been ever present and he's been brilliant. So yeah, Murillo.
So Murillo for you then, Adam. Christian, what about you?
So in third, I was toying with words, obviously for very much importance, but I actually went for Callum Hudson-Odoi in third.
Okay.
I thought that he was phenomenal. It was so pleasing to see, like, again, at the start of the season, he was written off by so many so prematurely. To see him just come through that and be that vital player that helped us get over the line towards the end of the season. I mean, like, obviously we talk about Wood's goals, and of course we would have been down without them. But you can equally argue Hudson-Odoi's goals without them as well. We definitely would have gone. So I had him in third. Second, I went for Murillo. Similar to Adam, I just thought that he was phenomenal. Like, no one expected him to be as good as he was. He'll be a Champions League player, if not next season, within the next 2 years, 100%. Unfortunately, likely not with Forest, unless we have some miraculous season next season. And
Fingers crossed.
yeah, batter everyone.
Conference League will do. Never mind Champions League.
Still, like with a point deduction as well, likely to, but still batter everyone. But he's just been. It's been a joy to watch his passing out from the back. It's been a joy to watch just him play football. Obviously, he's made mistakes at times, of course, and like I would say, he's not maybe not the best in the air, but obviously he's still incredibly young, and just to watch a player of that potential and ability at Forest has just been so exciting this season. Like I said, as I said a few pods before, like when people went about, oh, it's sort of the journey's better than the destination, all that nonsense. Like the destination is watching people like Murillo play football for Nottingham Forest. That is a destination in the Premier League. That is what we wanted to be, and that's what we've done. So to have it's been a joy to watch him. But number one, perhaps unsurprisingly, is Morgan Gibbs-White, who, in my mind, has been robbed of an England place. Fair enough, he might not have even made the cut, but how Madison's got ahead of him is a joke. Madison, when he was at Leicester, couldn't get in when he was playing really well, but now he's stinking the place out of Spurs. He's a shoo-in. It's just embarrassing Sky Six bias. But and he has every right to be fuming at that as well. He's been a revelation this season. Obviously, 10 assists, 5 goals. Okay, that's the only thing I would say is maybe his goals, which will probably stop him from maybe going to a top club just right now. I feel like had he got maybe even 3 more, if he got like just closer to 10, like even got 8 or something like that, would have been a very different story. But what he's done with a football club, like he is a talisman. He is the the heartbeat of the sides. If Gibbs-White plays well, Forest normally play well, and it's just an absolute joy to have someone of that nature at Forest. And he was like that season.
I must say, for Morgan, the fact that he was on the right wing for God, how many games did Cooper play him on the right wing for? Where he was, just out of position.
Even then, like you look at the Brighton at home game, he still managed to get a great assist in that game for the right wing.
Very
as well.
unlucky with the Palace one where he hit the post into with the lob.
Yeah,
that was on the wing. Lee, what about you?
Yeah, so I've not done anything different to Christian, to be fair. I'll just run through why. Hudson-Odoi, again, I could have tossed a coin between him and Wood for third, to be fair. I just think Hudson-Odoi's kind of steadily improved throughout the season, where as much as Woods kept scoring, I just think Hudson-Odoi's kind of been a little bit more emphatic with his direct style of play. Second, I've gone for Murillo, and the only reason I've gone for Murillo is I found it a little bit difficult to name a player of the season as a centre-back when we've been so bad at defending set pieces and all that sort of stuff. And I know that's not completely down to Murillo. It just didn't really sit easy with me when the one thing we have drawn praise from for this season is some of our attacking play. So it just made more sense for me to go with Gibbs-White for Player of the Year. And I can't really say all the stuff that Christian's just said was the stuff I planned to say about the the England call up and that sort of stuff. So just what I think is really nice is kind of a lot of people were kind of saying, oh, for the money we've paid for Gibbs-White, we need to be seeing more. Well, we have seen more from him this year. 10 assists. If he could add a few more goals to his game, then he's going to be worth an absolute fortune. And if he does add a few more goals to his game, then he's just going to simply be impossible for Southgate to keep ignoring him, I guess.
Yeah, it's just unfortunately with England, it's just that he's got 2 absolute superstars who can play as a 10 in Foden and Bellingham. So even if he wants to get caught up, which would be nice, it's nice to see the England squad and Nottingham Forest on there. It would be very difficult for him to get him. Also, you've got Eze, who's had a really good season at Palace. Obviously, Madison, who I actually do think will get cut, Madison, but we'll see on that. Mine is the exact same as Adam's. So third is Chris Wood. I mean, under Cooper had some stern words for him, but under Nuno, I mean, so how many did he score under Cooper? Was it 2? Sheffield United and Luton? 3.
That was 3. You got
He got 2 at
3. You
Luton,
got 2 in the
didn't he,
Luton game. Yeah.
Of course he did. Yeah, and then he's ended up. So he's got basically since Boxing Day 11 goals. That'd be right, wouldn't it? Obviously, you can count a dozen if you count the cup games, as well, which is phenomenal. A phenomenal ratio, really, because you're looking at over 20 a season if you put them two halves together. So yeah, I mean, without his goals, like you said, Adam, it'd be very. And to be fair, Hudson-Odoi is a shout as well. Without their goals, yeah, I mean that's what they are paid to do. But without them, we would be looking at a sticky situation. Second, I did go for Morgan Gibbs-White, and to be honest, he's quite unfortunate, really, that he isn't top for me, because he just that period where Cooper stuck him out on the right wing, where he was completely isolated, and I banged the drum on this pod about him not being influential on that position. And to be honest, it was one of the reasons why Steve in the end lost his job, in my opinion, because he was as talismanic, and also Wood as well, just could not get the best out of them. And then number one, yeah, is Murillo. I mean, to sign somebody who's 21 from the Brazilian league, who is, played 30 odd times for Corinthians, which is not much at all, not even a season's worth, for him to come in and be pretty much a mainstay once he got in, and us already looking to sell him for a huge amount of profit. He's number one for me. So that does put us at a bit of a deadlock. So did you count up the votes, Christian, from the listeners?
I haven't yet. No, I was going to do that afterwards.
I've just done a quick scan. So in case we did come to a deadlock, and I believe via vote that Morgan Gibbs-White gets it. So the red side of the Trent Player of the Season, once again, for the second season in a row, is Morgan Gibbs-White. So well done to him, but very close between him and Murillo. Right, we're going to move on now to most improved player. So I just want one for this, for the rest of the awards for Forest. So start again with you, Adam. Who's your most improved player this season?
I had 2 down, and I think I'll give it to Nico Williams in the end. I felt like how much we gave him in terms of grief last season because he couldn't defend anything. Like he was terrible. Like Christian was going to have a meltdown every week, I think, if he kept playing. I think this season you can see he's gone away. I mean, you have to kind of give credit to Alan Tate for this, because I think that's who he shouted out. He worked with him a hell of a lot, and he was really, really good with his defending. He was a lot better positionally wise. He's still got lots to learn, but I think that's why you give him a most improved. But I think next season is then when you want to see him go the other way, which is what his strengths were essentially when we brought him in, which was getting forward, because he can, when he gets the ball and he can pick up a bit of momentum, he can get past players. He's quite quick actually when he gets into a bit of a rhythm. So yeah, I'd like to see Nico continue the good defensive work. He's obviously a hard working player. He likes to get stuck in. Next season, get a few more assists on his tally sheet would be lovely. But yeah, defender first and foremost, and that's what he improved on most this season. But a shout out to Danilo, who I thought was brilliant this season. I thought he really improved, and I think he deserves a mention.
Okay, Christian, what about you?
I've also gone for Williams. Yeah, I think Williams. I imagine we might have a bit of a clean sweep there.
That will be a shock to many.
I think like Adam sort of touched upon, he's night and day compared to last season. I think also, much like Wood, really, he sort of benefited from Cooper leaving. Weirdly, he's been a much different and better player since Nuno's come in. For me, and yeah, he's started to resemble a Premier League footballer, which last season wasn't the case at all. I mean, even at the start of this season, he was probably our 4th choice right back at one point, with Aurier, Aina, and
we discussed it on the pod, I remember.
Yeah, so we were all saying had he left, would anyone even? I mean, obviously Leeds were linked. I wouldn't have cared had he gone at that moment in time. I really say it. I thought he was dead weight. So for him to come back from that and to really establish himself as first choice right back, has been tremendous. Obviously, there's still some things to iron out as always, but he's really started to show that he's actually got the ability to back up the potential now. That's been spoken about by so many, because last year we didn't see it at all. So yeah, obviously the bar was probably a bit low, but personally, but he's really surprised me how good he's been second half of the season. So yeah.
I think something to mention on Nico as well is last season it wasn't his fault because he got booted in his jaw, but it'd be nice if he could stay fit for a season because obviously this season was curtailed, wasn't it? In the end, was it Man City went off, wasn't it? Like last season he missed parts. So he's kind of never really got going fully. He has these a few runner games where he's good, and then something kind of happens. Last season it was more of a couple of bad games, whereas this season, he gets going and it was an injury, and it was strange, really, because Cooper's obviously the Wolves game when he brought him back in, he heaped praise on Williams, didn't he? Yet didn't seem to want to play him very much, so that was interesting. Lee, what about you? Clean sweep?
No, I am going different. I'm going for Wood, purely because I actually felt that everyone would kind of be right about Wood. I think you look at his performances last season, and he just looked unfit. He looked like somebody who'd not played regular football for ages, and it just looked like a stereotypical signing that just gets the recruitment team bashed. But no, I think one thing that I've said about Wood is it's not just been his goals for me. From that first kind of appearance, he's looked fitter, he's looked stronger, he's looked leaner, he's looked just better. His movement's been better. And it's all sorts of things that he's got better at, the stuff you don't necessarily associate with an aging player who's on a pretty sizable wage. So fair play to him. I just thought it was Williams could have got it as well. To be fair, I think everything that Adam and Christian have said has been spot on about Nico. But yeah, I've gone for Chris Wood just for those reasons. I just think he's basically just silenced everyone, hasn't he? Let's face it. And yeah, it is really bizarre that he's got better for Cooper leaving. So yeah, I'm going Wood.
Wood. Yeah, well, obviously deciding votes on me, and I'm with Adam and Christian. It'd be Nico Williams for me. Last season I did say there was times when he did look okay, but then there was times when he got caught out a lot in behind. A lot of times when the old Hudson-Odoi, as we now know it, cut inside and whipped around him. I can think of the Leicester and the Leeds games. Like the Blackpool away game last season was just a disaster for everybody. But yeah, this season I think what it was with Nico is that Wolves game when the chips are really down in the team, he epitomised what we need to kind of this fighting spirit to stay up, this fighting spirit, what the media said Luton have had. So yeah, so fair play to him. Obviously he'll go away this summer because he won't be going to the Euros, but not going to mention that too much, and hopefully he could come back nice and fit next season and carry on improving for us. So yeah, most improved player for Red Side of the Trent is Nico Williams. So well done to him. Next on to goal of the season. So again, just one for this. So start with you, Adam.
Well, I don't know what you guys thought, but I really enjoyed the alternative goal of the season.
Yeah, it went down well, didn't it?
I thought so, but the one that actually got what I thought was goal of the season is that I think it's going to be a little bit different to everyone else. I actually expect us all four to have a different goal, to be honest.
Okay.
I think it depends what kind of, I don't know, aesthetics you like. But I've gave Ola Aina against Aston Villa because I just thought for a right back who actually said in an interview he thought about shooting with his left foot and actually shot with his right foot, which I found absolutely bizarre because how the ball comes to him. But I just thought to come onto it from so far out and side foot it as a daisy cutter into the bottom corner against a team that have just won got into the Champions League. I'm about to say they've won the Champions League, got into the Champions League.
World Cup winner in goal as well.
World Cup winner in goal, and he's absolutely nestled it in the side netting. And I just love Ola Aina. I think he's been such a welcome addition to the side. Like last season when we were seeing changing room videos of like Lingard dancing around, at least Ola Aina's got it to back it up. He's got ability to back up with his vibes. He's just pure vibes, and I love him. So I'm really, really happy, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but I'm ecstatic that him and Willy Bolly have extended their contracts. It's been a great piece of business. I mean, Lee's an absolute massive fan of Sirianos and the recruitment team and defending them, and he's an example of that. Free transfer from Torino, and he's been brilliant for us. So yeah, Ola Aina against Villa, cracking goal.
Christian, what about you?
So I narrowed it down to 3, but I've got one. So obviously, in third, I had Hudson-Odoi versus Sheffield United. This first one, where he sort of skips it up and then whips it. I thought the technique to do that was outrageous. Speaking of technique, in second, I had Danilo versus Brentford, because to take it down on your left foot and then volley it on your right without it bouncing is ridiculously good. And again, robbed by Max today for not having him as goal of the month. I hope some stern words were had with those behind the scenes there, because that was a disgrace how that wasn't even nominated. But number one for me, as Adam was saying about aesthetics, is Hudson-Odoi versus Burnley, because that was just a beautiful, beautiful goal. The way it sort of whips it off the post. I think there's always something special when it hits the inside of the post, I think, and goes in. It's just like there's no keepers get in there. It's just like the flailing arms of Trafford, just watching that sort of like go in. I thought, like, what a state, what a way to introduce yourself as well. And so I'm gonna go with that. I think that's the best goal for me. Yeah.
Okay, Lee, what about you?
Yeah, tricky to narrow it down to one. I quite liked honourable mentions to Wood's second one against Newcastle. That was just such an un-Chris Wood goal. I know he said it was harsh when he was interviewed afterwards, but it was. I'm sorry, it was just such an un-Chris Wood goal. I actually also liked our very first goal of the season, purely because it kind of sums up how Forest play. That was everything we were good at last season. Everything kind of just clicked on the first game of the season against such good opposition. But I've got to go for Danilo's, I think, against Brentford. As Christian says, I think, again, as someone who was very average as a footballer, so before people come at me, I just think a goal of the season's got to be one that you can't replicate. You're going to struggle to replicate if you try it 100 times down the park or on a Sunday morning. I just think that is such a great piece of technical skill. As good as Ina's goal is, I think if all four of us run onto that 100 times, we'd stick it in the bottom corner, a few of them. So whereas Danilo's, I could be trying that all day. I could be trying that all week, and I don't think I get it right. So yeah, I'm going for Danilo's just for that reason.
So I am going to agree with one here. So this will be the winner. So I'm going to agree with you, Lee. I've also gone for Danilo against Brentford, and that is because it's like the boxing analogy of what judges are kind of looking for. They all look for kind of different things to score around, and it's kind of what you like, isn't it? But for me, again, just to drop it on your left thigh and then volley it in on the right with your right in a really tight space with players around you, just want to drop it in the bottom corner. And also, I will mention after the fanfare of Ivan Toney coming back. So, it was all set up, wanted for, Ivan Toney to get the winner of the first goal. I know he did eventually end up scoring, but that's another discussion. But to do that and silence the crowd for a period of time was very nice. So, yeah, that'd be it for me. So, goal of the season for Red Sided Trent is Danilo's volley against Brentford. Right, I've lost my notes now. Right, so moving on to the next one, which is signing of the season. So, Adam, take it away.
One man, Callum Hudson-Odoi. I just love him. I think we all love him. We've all grown to love him anyway, and I think he's grown to
How can you not?
I think we've grown. I think he's grown to love Forest. To be honest, he put out a post the other day, like we go again next season with a highlight reel, and it almost made me feel a little bit better about the whole transfer rumor saga around him already. Which is it's actually quite nice to be linked with these our players be linked with players away, especially after one season being with us. You kind of think, well, we've done something right. But yeah, he just gets you off your seat, and he's a really exciting player. I think we're going to see a better Callum Hudson-Odoi next season. I do, because I just think he's got his confidence back in terms of his body and everything else. And for 3 million, I think we wax lyrical about it every week. Every time he's had a good game, 3 million quid. That does not get you a lot in football when you pay for a player in the Premier League. So yeah, sensational piece of business. Can't wait to watch him next season in the Garibaldi.
I think we paid near enough that for Jamal Abdul, didn't we, back in the day? Was it about 2.5, maybe? So,
I'll have no slander against Jamal Abdul. Thank you.
Another disaster of a signing. Christian, what about you?
I've got 3 down again. So I've in reverse. So I've got Sells in at 3. So I thought that without Sells, we probably would have gone down. Had we had Sells from the start of the season, we likely wouldn't have been embroiled in any issue at all. But that's what happens when you hire clowns, unfortunately. Seconds, I went for Hudson-Odoi purely because I put him in for goal of the season, so I couldn't win everything. So my signing of the season is Murillo, just because I started just for the chant alone, if anything. But no, Murillo has just been outrageously good. I think again, you think about it's £10 million. I mean, if you look at like return on investment, for example, and stuff like that, or how things, valuation changes, and we got for like 10 to 15 million, whatever. We're now valuing him at 70 million pounds, for example. Like, to do that in one season of football is just staggering and testament to how good he's been for us. And like, I just really hope we can keep him for a little bit longer. Suspect we won't, but regardless, he's just been a revelation of a signing.
Just before I move on to Lee, if X club was to come in the summer, how much would you want? I mean, a blank check is the answer, but how much would you say is fair value for Murillo personally?
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we pushed 60, 70.
Okay.
Genuinely. I know that sounds outrageous, but I think in terms of his ceiling, in terms of his current ability, in terms of, the fact he's left-footed as well, the centre-half, I generally think that he could go as high as he wants to go.
So if someone coming with £50 million, it'd be a rejection from you?
Yeah, I reckon we get more than that, yeah.
Okay. Right, Lee, we'll move on to you. Signing of the season, please.
Yeah, just because of the price, I think it's got to be Hudson-Odoi. Can't really disagree with much that Christian said about Murillo, and there is a strong case for him as well. But Hudson-Odoi is just £3 million. Do you think of some of our recruitment over the years? I mean, yeah, amazing signing. I think it probably did help that Steve Cooper was the manager to get him, to be honest. I'm not sure he'd have come. I know he's played well under Nuno as well, but I think would we have enticed him to come if Cooper wasn't the manager in the summer? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. And I think Cooper will have pushed to get him as well. Whereas I'm not sure that that was one that came off the notebook from the recruitment team as such. So, yeah, I've got to go for him. I think Aina deserves a mention as well as a freebie. And also Elanga, I think 15 million quid for Elanga as well was good business. So, but just because he was so cheap and he's been really, really good, I'll go for Hudson-Odoi.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, 3 million is an absolute bargain. Something what was interesting, what he did say is he did want to get away from London because at one point it looked like he was going to Fulham, didn't it? And we was going to get Willian. No, but that worked out quite nicely for us for once, which is good. So it's Hudson-Odoi as well for me. I mean, I've said this on the pod. I mean, for somebody, I know it was a few seasons ago, and I know he's had injuries. I know he's been out of form since. But for somebody who was turning 60, 70 million pound bids down for, and who's been capped for England, for it to go down to 3 million at 23, and I know Chelsea have apparently got a big sell-on clause, but I just think surely he's still worth then 15 million maybe. I just can't believe we got him 3 million, and it is in hindsight easy to say this because he's done well for us. But even if it had a stinker for us this season, I'd still think we'd get more than 3 million for him. Still probably think you get 5, but that's great for us. Hopefully, we'll touch on a few rumours later, but hopefully he'll stay next season because he's somebody who, with a proper pre-season, which he didn't really have last season, who I think can just push on again for us. So the signing of the season for the pod is Callum Hudson-Odoi. So moving on to the last Forest Award, which is Game of the Season. So Adam, take it away.
Difficult one, I think, because there's a few honourable mentions, and they're like Man United at home for everyone who's been surrounded by Man United fans for all their lives. Newcastle away, Christian drove about 73 hours to get there and back on Boxing Day. So and we go and win there, which is like Nuno's second game as manager. But I think just because I think this one where we looked like an absolute stalwart of a Premier League side for a change, especially in the first half, I think I'm going to have to say Fulham at home. I just thought the football we played was unbelievable. All 3 goals we scored were brilliant. We could have been about 6-0 up at half time. And to force Fulham into 3 changes within half an hour says a lot. And then the Gibbs White goal which capped it all off for the third was just good football. We just looked like we actually belonged for a change. I mean, we've played some really, really good football this season, and it's really weird to say because we finished 17th, and I thought it was better than last season in terms of actually being entertaining.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and I know the points tally don't tell the whole story, but I'm just quite excited for next season if we can keep this core together and add like little bits. But you just know that with Forest, and I'm sure we'll talk about it through the summer and stuff, we're just not a normal club. And I'm not surprised there's no Netflix documentary because I just feel like all the skeletons would come out of the closet and it'd just be like absolute disaster. But yeah, Fulham at home.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to next season. Hopefully more of that.
Christian, what about you?
Yeah, obviously, so I've started my honorable mentions first. Chelsea away, I thought was massive, just because, given how terrible our away form was last season, to go to, I know obviously it started slowly, but it's still the modern Chelsea. That team still cost £1 billion. It was still a team that ended up finishing sixth. Really, if you look at some of their results, obviously Dave was telling me about this. Like, had they beaten Sheffield United and Burnley, they would have finished above Spurs. Like, and we all talk, this media like lauded Spurs for the majority of this season. So it took them a while to get going, but that team was, obviously clearly a very good Premier League side. And so for us to win there and keep a clean sheet as well, like, that was outrageously good. Second, obviously, again, like Adam touched upon, the United game at home was very special, just because it had been so long since we beat them. We needed to get one over them for a long, long time. But on a personal basis, yeah, the game of the season for me was Newcastle away. Just obviously, spending 11.5 hours in the car on Boxing Day, leaving at like 2:30 in the morning for a 12:30 kickoff, and to get 3 goals was ridiculous. Chris Wood turned into prime R9 that day, and it was just phenomenal. Yeah, so just from a personal basis, I thought as well, just when obviously we've been terrible away, like, so for us to just turn up at Newcastle and put 3 past them was just something I don't think anyone expected us to do. So yeah, that'll be my game of the season.
After going 1-0 down as well.
Yeah,
so
it's contentious penalty too. Shock.
Yeah, I think it was worth noting as well. Like, I think going into that game, they just conceded like 1 goal in like 8 or 9 games or something as well.
Yeah, it'd been a period.
So,
like,
I don't really blame you, but yeah, brilliant. I think just I could have got tickets. I think we could have all got tickets. There were people who couldn't give them away.
No one they go, did they? Like,
no, absolutely not.
To be fair, it was stinking.
Yeah,
time when it was at 12:30 on Boxing Day. It's not the best, was it? Fair play.
Yeah, everyone was having turkey curry.
Yeah. Lee, what about you?
I'm still reeling from the fact that Christian left at 2:30. I think I was just going to bed then from Christmas Day.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
crazy. I'm going for Man United at home. Yeah, the one when we first got promoted, the one team that I really wanted to see us beat was Man United, either at home or away. Just because of, like Adam touched upon, growing up in a school where people support Man United. Some of those people have still never been to Manchester. They've still never been to Manchester as a city, let alone Old Trafford, and they still give it the big one on social media. So obviously they were all out of the woodwork yesterday. The internet was back up in Salford yesterday, wasn't it? So yeah, that win was just amazing for that exact reason. But yeah, all the honourable mentions I can't disagree with either.
Salford, you mean London?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reds. Yeah.
Oh, well, I had to sit amongst them all yesterday during the FA Cup final, and which they deserved to win. To be fair, so fair play to them. So just shame Matt Turner was a sieve that game, because we should have beat him at home. It was just, unfortunately for us, we had everybody, about 50,000 players at AFCON and loads of injuries. So
have you just said fair play to Manchester United on this podcast?
Yeah, they did deserve to win yesterday. You can't deny that.
Let's move on.
But I'm going to agree with you, Lee. My game of the season is United at home, because I bleeded hate them as well. So it was nice to get one over him. And to be fair, we shouldn't have even conceded, should we? Man United were dreadful that night, and we put them to the sword. We was in complete control until Matt Turner decided to gift them one. And I know Marcus Rashford's not had a good season, but he's still a quality player, and he punished us. It was probably his only chance of the night. So thankfully, Morgan Gibbs-White's beauty got us the win that night. So yeah, the red side of the trend game of the season is Manchester United, a 2-1 win at home. So that's it for the Forest Awards. So we're moving on to a treble of Premier League awards. So we'll run through these. So Adam, player of the season for the Premier League, seeing as we're in it again for the 3rd consecutive season.
A bloke who I can't wait to watch for England this summer, Phil Foden. Absolute baller. Stockport Messi. Come on, the Three Lions, I guess. I mean, there'll be people who will hate me to say this because I've got some Polish heritage. I'll be watching them as well. But yeah, come on, come on, England. Come on, Phil Foden. I'm a big fan.
Hopefully, he don't play like he did yesterday. He struggled yesterday.
I know this is a Forest pod, but England's front four or front 5, 6 is absolutely ridiculous. They've all got like 20 plus goal involvements this season. I mean, there's a plethora of talent to pick for, but it's just a shame that our back four and defense looks an absolute, I don't know, like a shrieking shack, doesn't it? It's shocking.
We'll see. It's just the defence is that it's just been riddled with injuries, hasn't it? I mean, John Stones is England's best centre back, and he's had an injury season. I mean, Luke Shaw's the best left back. He's been injured for most of the season. Maguire's in and out of the team every week.
How Tyreek Mitchell's not made the cut is beyond me.
Yeah,
as
I
a
thought
left
that was
back.
a bit strange. Even Chilwell, to be honest. I know he's not had loads this season, but
sorry, so getting carried away with England.
Yeah, that's another conversation. Christian, what about you?
I've also gone Phil Foden. I think also I've honourable mentions for Rice and Rodri, but I think Foden just it made me laugh. Like there's so much crap said about him, like when Pep introduced him so gradually and so carefully, and it's been the best thing for him. Like I know obviously you can look at Cole Palmer, for example, and how great he's been away from him, but in terms of preparing a player, Foden could probably play till he's about 37, 38 because of the way he's been introduced. And he's been so carefully looked after, so easily, sort of gently, like eased into the first team. And this season, he's just like grabbed it by the horns, and he's been outrageously good. Even when De Bruyne got injured for half a season, he didn't even notice in that one much because obviously Foden was pulling all the strings in his absence. Obviously, when he came back, it was like, well, that's it, title over then, pretty much, isn't it? But I just think that he's very quickly become part of the sort of untouchables, if you like. If we at City with Haaland, De Bruyne, now Foden, you say, and Rodri. So yeah, he's. I give it for Foden. I just really hope he can bring it home in the for the Euros, and hope that Southgate doesn't shunt him the right wing or something stupid. But yeah,
I hope he's Saka out there, won't it? But I must say, what is crazy about Foden is he's 23, and I think he's won 17 major trophies.
He's won more than most clubs. Like it's ridiculous. I think that's his 6th league title. I think or something.
Yeah, it's 6. Yeah, I mean, there will be people who'll be shouting at the screen now, like the cheats. They don't deserve any of them. But obviously the players just play, don't they? They're not part of the financial sides, and you've got to admire Phil Foden because he's a lovely footballer to watch. Lee, what about you?
Yeah, Foden again. Can't say anything other. I mean, he's going to play left back for England, isn't he? Let's face it, that's what Southgate will do. That's why he's not called on up. He's going to play Foden there. But yeah, everything that the guys have said, really, just amazing player. Gutted he didn't play against Forest. I know that sounds mental because we'd have probably lost by more than the 2-goal margin we did lose by, but always, like you said at the top of the show, being in the Premier League is about seeing players of that ilk, and unfortunately we were robbed of that chance with a niggle he picked up in the Champions League. So yeah, Foden, what I would say is, might be slightly controversial, had Arsenal won the title, I think I'd have been tempted to go Rice. I just think the biggest compliment I can say about Rice is that he costs such a big transfer fee, but nobody talks about it, and it's because he's been so good. So yeah, he'd be the honourable mention, I think.
Yeah, he did smash one in against us at the Etihad, Foden.
I mean at the City ground.
Yeah. I'm going to actually disagree with all three of you. So I'm going to go for a left field one, and my player of the season is going to be Cole Palmer. And I'm going to go for Cole because without him, I generally think Chelsea probably would have finished bottom half. It was that bad. He literally dragged them in the end to, what was it, 5th, did you say, to finish, or 6th, Christian? And
they finished 6th in the end, yeah, Chelsea.
I think he got, was it 20-odd goals for someone who's not really like, I'd say he's proper full first professional season. He's been in dribs and drabs City, but for them and then to go from one big club in terms of success to another big club in terms of success and become their main player. I mean, fair play to him. I mean, I bet Pep deep down is probably thinking, God, I wish he hadn't kind of gone really. But
like one of his few regrets, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we was in that relegation battle, I did enjoy his absolute dismantlement of Everton that night when he was absolutely incredible. So, but I mean, you could easily argue for Foden as well. I mean, the reason probably I didn't go for him is because in that City side, I think most players would look incredible, wouldn't they, with the way they play.
I think it's a bit mad that Palmer were like linked to go to Burnley or is on loan.
Yeah,
as well.
No,
crazy.
We'd have shunted him at right wing.
Yeah, but it's just a shame for him, really. You look at his form this season, you think, yeah, he should be a shoo-in for the England team, but it's kind of like, where do you get him in? That's kind of the worry.
It's a nice problem, though, isn't it?
Yeah, for Gareth to have. But I can't argue with Foden. So yeah, Premier League Player of the Season for Red Side of Trent is Manchester City and England's Phil Foden. So we're going to move on now to Manager of the Season. So Adam, start with you.
I think you got to go Uncle Emery, aren't you, and I? Because I mean, just like Villa's transformation in the last 18 months is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's took a team that were like battling relegation when Gerrard, the bloody fraud, took over, and then he's turned them into Champions League team now. I mean, Ollie Watkins has been an absolute revelation since he's come in as well. Like, if Tony gets picked over him, it's an absolute farce. By the way, I know we keep talking about England. He's got to. I mean, he's had an unbelievable season. He would have been my honourable mention as Player of the Season because like 19 goals and 13 assists or whatever is stupid numbers really for a team that's come fourth. So yeah, fair play to him. They should have done better in Europe. I mean, got beat by our sister team in Olympiacos. Got absolutely stuffed actually. But my other honourable mention's got to be Gary O'Neill for Wolves. I just think like take over 3 days or whatever it was before when Lopetegui's walked out. A couple of us said that they'll get relegated because they just lost. They'd lost Matteo Nunes, didn't they, to City? Weren't sure what was going to happen with like Cunha, Wang, Pedro Neto's always injured. I mean, he plays about 10 games, gets injured for the season, and then comes back. So yeah, I think Gary O'Neill gets an honourable mention for overachieving with Wolves essentially. So yeah, fair play. I think Emery though been brilliant.
Christian.
Yeah, Uncle Renai for me. I think what he did with Villa is ridiculous. I think most people would have had them maybe in and around. Actually, to be fair, I think in my picture, I don't even had them. I think I had them at 8th, just because I thought they'd have. Most teams struggle to juggle. Let me have a tongue twister that. Struggle to juggle with Europe, and they normally, especially with the Europa League and the Conference League, where there's so many games, they tend to sort of fall by the wayside. Look at Brighton, prime example this season. I know obviously Brighton lost their best players, but they put a good fist up for about to about maybe March, and then just completely nosedived. So whereas Villa managed to hold it together until maybe the last 5 weeks of the season, and it started to creep in then. And unfortunately, at the wrong time. I think that maybe with a touch more depth, they might have probably won the Conference League and still finished top 4, but I think for them to finish 4th is an outrageously good achievement. I know much to be said about Spurs and whatever else, and Chelsea obviously took a while to get firing, but they ultimately made the most of it, and they did it playing really good football as well. Obviously, Watkins as a player transformed under him, and yeah, it's got to be him. My honourable mentions, other than Emery, I went for obviously Pep won the league because he won the Premier League, and Sean Dyche.
Yeah,
I'm sure Dyche will mention as well because he had so much to deal with, so much they just got over the having 1 point deduction and they had another one, and sort of galvanised the place again. They went 4 months without a win. Obviously, in that time, when all that uncertainty was going on, he held it together, and they massively pulled away at the end and beat Liverpool too. They as the chart goes now, they lost the league at Goodison Park. So, Dyche deserves to mention too, I think.
Without a deduction, they finished a point off top half Everton, which is
it's crazy. Yeah,
it is a very good shot. That is. Lee, what about you?
Yeah, I thought you were going to get through that, Christian, without stealing my thunder, to be honest. I'm going for Dyche for that exact reason. I just don't think, and I'm happy to say this, I actually think if that Everton situation had happened with any other manager in place at Goodison Park, I think they'd have got relegated pretty comfortably. I do. I just think one thing that Dyche is as a manager, he's just the absolute master at galvanising a team. And to be honest, the Premier League couldn't have picked on a worse team, I didn't think, with him in charge. So yeah, I'm going to go for them. Just to be a little bit different as well. I think Emery's achievement is obviously amazing, but I did half anticipate that you guys might go for Emery. So yeah, I'm going to go for Dyche.
Okay, I'm not going to go for Uncle Unai because I'm still bitter about the last man standing. Your last man standing knocked me out of losing to Steve Evans, Stevenage. And I am actually going to go for someone who's not been mentioned yet, which I'm surprised, and that is Andoni Iraola. And I'm going to go for him because he was basically on the verge of getting sacked. because Bournemouth got off to a terrible start. They was below us for quite a while, and for him to get 48 points with Bournemouth and finish again a point off top half after that dreadful start, I know they have spent a bit of money, but you know, you can't. It's not like one of them clubs that's easy to galvanise into when you're getting 10,000 fans through the gate in the Premier League. I think fair play to him in his first season in the Premier League, because he easily could have been. I think it's Bill Foley into there, and I think the finger probably was hovering over the button at one point to sack him. So, yeah, I'd go for him. You can't deny the achievement Emery's done. I guess what would knock him is the fact that everyone probably expected them to win the Conference League, and they didn't in the end. You know, and yeah, there's not really. I wouldn't say there's been a lot of managers who performed above expectations this year. I mean, we all expected City to win the league, didn't we? We all thought, I think, Arsenal would push them again, which they had. But yeah, I mean, so the red side of the Trent manager this season is Unai Emery, Uncle Unai, as you guys call him. So last but not least, which is I like this award because I think you'll get a variation of people, which is the best opposition player you've seen against Forest this season in terms of how they played on the day. So start with you, Adam.
I've got so many down because I don't think anyone's been unbelievable. Like last season, it was Thiago Silva by a country mile. I just thought I don't like the brand Rolls Royce too much, but he's probably the definition of it in my book. Really, he's just so good. This season, I've gone for someone a bit left field. I've gone for Pascal Gross. Okay. I just thought against us where Brighton were really struggling. I mean, they celebrated the win like they'd won the World Cup at the end because they'd got about 20 injuries and Robert De Zerbi was having a meltdown about everything. I just thought Gross just completely stood out in that game against Brighton. I mean, we weren't very good anyway. We weren't very. I think a lot of the times when players were good against us, they've not been outstanding, but we've just been more poor than anything. But I thought he was really, really good this season. He's had a good season for Brighton, actually. But yeah, he was good on the day against us. I think another mention would be Solanke because he scored a hat-trick, but he didn't have to work that hard to score a hat-trick apart from maybe one of the goals where the header I thought was really good. I know Christian has his gripe with Turner, but I thought it was a good header. But yeah, Pascal Gross for me.
Christian, what about you?
I take a different slide. I try to do it based on both games rather than just one. Because otherwise, I was leaning towards Solanke for his hat trick, obviously at City grounds. Okay. But I've gone for Bukayo Saka because in both games against Arsenal, Saka was very good. Obviously, scored in both games. Obviously, the absolute screamer in the first game, and yeah, obviously the second game just killed the match off effectively. I really like Saka as a footballer. I think that he's a brilliantly gifted winger. Again, delighted he's English because the England team's so much better with him in it. Now he's not being played left wing back as Southgate initially put him there, but again, another conversation for another time. I'm gonna go for him.
Okay, Lee.
I've got some honourable mentions. I thought Ward-Prowse was good in the West Ham game at their place with his set pieces. Rodri, just because it's Rodri. But I'm going for Solanke. I just think I know he didn't particularly have to work hard for a hat trick, but I just think because of his presence in that end of the pitch, he was just a constant. He's a constant threat. He's absolutely massive. So yeah, it was difficult this year. I think last year lots of people certainly came to the City ground and kind of. I think I went for Kane in this category last year. But yeah, this year it was kind of a bit more tricky. So I'll go for the guy who scored a hat trick against us.
Okay. It's different for all of us. I mean, again, I thought Thiago Silva was absolutely superb against us the other week. I mean, he was looking around at the other defenders at some point, like, you could actually help me out here, or I'll just do it on my own. Just so smooth. For me, I mean, he kept 2 clean sheets against us, so it'd be Virgil van Dijk. The Liverpool home game, there was, I think, the one what sticks in my mind is where we literally switched it to Gibbs White. And he looked like he was just going to blast it past Kelleher, and he just come out of nowhere and just stuck his foot there to block it, Van Dijk. And in the end, he obviously ended up winning. Yeah, I mean, I always think of that FA Cup game when Jed Spence tried to run him down the wing and he just moved to the side and kept up with him. So he'd be that for me. The award for us, I'm going to give it to Solanke because Lee voted for it. You guys have mentioned it, and a couple in the comments have also mentioned Solanke. Very unfortunate, really, to not be in the England squad. Well, the 33 it is, I think. I'd had him in there ahead of Tony, but that's for another day. So yeah, so the best player to play against Forest this season is Dominic Solanke. So that's it for the awards. We are pushing for time, so I will quickly do a few slept on it thoughts. So if one of you guys want to play the jingle, that'd be great.
Red side of the Trent. Slept on it thoughts.
So I'll just read a few out because, like I said, we are pushing for time because I want to cover a couple of other subjects. So Reece Coy, my namesake, player, he went for Murillo, goal, Danilo Brentford, most improved Nico, signing Matt Sells, game, Fulham at home, Prem player Cole Palmer, manager, he says boring but Guardiola, and best player against Forest, Thiago Silva. So same as me. Premier Elliott, he went for Murillo top. Hudson-Odoi, Burnley as a goal. Nico most improved. Signing Callum Hudson-Odoi. Fulham at home as a game. Prem player Foden. Manager Uncle Unai. And best player against Forest, I agree with you, Christian, Bukayo Saka. Tom Justice, player Morgan Gibbs-White. Goal Hudson-Odoi against Fulham. Most improved Nico. Signing Murillo. Game United at home. Prem player Foden. Manager Emery. Best player against Forest, Palmer. Martin Fretwell, Gibbs-White for player of the season. Danilo goal, most improved Williams. Signing Hudson-Odoi, game of the season, Newcastle away. Foden, the Prem player. Emery, manager. Best player against Forest, who went for Kelleher, Liverpool, which is an interesting one. Joel, player Gibbs-White, goal Hudson-Odoi, Burnley. Most improved Nico, signing Hudson-Odoi, game United at home. Prem player Foden, manager Emery again. Best player against Forest, Cole Palmer. Finally, Jace Andrews, player Gibbs-White, goal Hudson-Odoi against Burnley. Most improved Nico Williams, signing Hudson-Odoi, but he also mentioned Matt Sells, game United at home. Prem player Phil Foden, manager Guardiola, and against Forest, Solanke. So thanks to everybody for getting them in. Thanks to everyone who's contributed during the season. Sometimes we get that many, we can't read them all out. So as we had on this occasion, so I've just read a few out. So just to round off the pod, we've just got basically 3 subjects left, and I'm going to go round them with you all. So I guess you can all come on this one. So this is like any other business kind of section. So we've not really had a chance to mention it with only kind of doing the one pod a week we do. And the fact, obviously, we've had plenty of Premier League games to do. But it was muted in the media. I think it's a few weeks ago now. Was it before the Chelsea game, I believe? The chairman, Tom Cartledge, did an interview with Dan Taylor, friend of the pod, who's been on the pod before. Mentioned about the club moving away from the City Ground, and one of the sites, I must emphasise that was noted, was Totem, which is closer to Pride Park than the City Ground. The chairman followed that up yesterday with another interview with the Forest Focus podcast. He went into it more with Matt Davis on there. I'm not sure, have you, any of you guys managed to listen to that yet?
No, not yet.
No. So basically, just kind of your thoughts on what, I mean, we all want to, I think we all want to stay at the City Ground, don't we? I mean, that's quite clear. I mean, and obviously extend, we know that it does seem to be a little bit difficult. If you'd listened to the interview, what do you guys expect is going to happen? Is the question I'll ask you. So we'll start with you, Adam.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because obviously, from a commercial side of point of view, we want to get as many people in the ground as possible. And I completely understand everyone's love for the nostalgia of staying where we are, and myself included, and obviously all the businesses around the ground and on the way to the ground, and even in the city centre, would greatly suffer if we were to move. So. Yeah, and then obviously the whole thing of our badge. I mean, we've got a tree on the bloody Trent, haven't we? So it'd be a bit weird if we moved away. We'd have to change the badge because it would just become irrelevant. So that would be an interesting one. But if we did have to move, I'd rather us move somewhere that's actually within Nottingham rather than that's closer to a Derby postcode. I mean, that just seems baffling. Fair enough if a training ground and a centre of excellence and all that sort of stuff move there. Yeah, that can be anywhere in the country for me. But the ground has got to be within where it is now, really, or as close to. I just think it makes zero sense moving it all the way to Towton. It just would be baffling. I think the fear is as well is like what it'd do to the atmosphere. You'd get a lot more fans who. I think you'd still get mostly Forest fans. I think the notion that you'd get a lot of plastic fans it would be. I think I'd struggle to believe that because we're not that type of club. Really, that would attract that type of fan. But you just never know. But yeah, I'm against the move if at all. But if we're going to move somewhere, that's going to be relative.
I mean, do you think we will move? If I gave you £100, say stick this on a bet, say in the next 10 years, do you think Forest will move? What would you put it on?
In the next 10 years, if we're in the Premier League, then yes.
Okay. I think as well, just to touch on the plastics comment, I mean, when people say that, for me, that is just people who, I think they mean people who basically live in Nottingham, who probably support Manchester United, Liverpool, etc. They'll think, oh, actually, I can go and watch Premier League football on my doorstep. Which, a lot of people go and watch football because they like watching football.
Yeah.
I think that would is a little bit of concern. I mean, Christian, I know you're really passionate about staying. So obviously there's no point in kind of covering that, but what do you think is going to happen?
I think it's pretty explanatory what's going to happen. I think, obviously doing it seems very obvious. I mean, obviously I could be completely wrong here, but to the outside eye, it seems like Cartledge has obviously used his contacts with Ben Bradley to try and secure that Towton site. I suspect that's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay.
I just think that, and what gets me most is that it's a very shady way of doing things. I think that it just clearly benefits him. Like if you look at even when we tried to move before, all the sites with to Gampston and stuff like that, those were Benoit like designs and stuff like that as well. And who is Tom Cartledge? He's part of Benoit as well. So I think that it's pretty evident they've tried to use the council as a scapegoat. They've obviously massively failed because people have seen straight through it ultimately. I just, much like you said at the time, I just rather they be honest and say, look, we want to move. Like when Marinakis said, yeah, okay, we're going to move. At least that was the first bit of clarity we actually had, rather than just chasing lost avenues. It's pretty obvious what Cartledge wants. He'll get a pension packet out of it if Forest move grounds. That's how it seems to me anyway. So I suspect, unfortunately, that's what will happen. We'll end up with some soulless dump somewhere. And like you said, it'll be closer to Pride Park. There will be anything else, and it won't be the same Forest. It won't be the same anything. And yeah, great. More people might get to go. Like Adam touched upon earlier, people on the doorstep. Oh, great! I support Man United. If I can't get to watch Man United, I don't know where Manchester is. I always watch Forest play instead, and won't care. It won't be the same. And yeah, I'm vehemently against it, but I'm pretty resigned to it now. It's pretty evident what they're going to do. And there's not, obviously we can protest as fans and do our little bit. And obviously we've done that to great effect in the grounds already. The City Ground chants and Towton chants, especially. We have very clear messages to the media and to the owner and Cartledge, but I think it's pretty obvious what they want to do.
To be fair to Matt, he did ask him that question, and he called it in the interview a conspiracy theory because he said that he was also behind the plans of the new stand at the City Ground. Was his kind of counter argument to that.
But I don't detract from the fact that he was part of Benoit before, that he'll get a lot of money out of it if we end up moving stadiums. It's not a conspiracy theory, is it?
He also said as well that if we was to move, it isn't guaranteed that he'd be the contractor of choice.
That's nonsense. I mean, why would else would he have been brought in? That's complete nonsense. This is the thing. Like you can see straight. If you call a spade, you can see straight through it. Like it's just so. I don't get why he's trying to put all these smoke and mirrors up for someone who claims to be like a Forest season ticket holder for so many years. He's clearly in it for his own vested interest. Just come out and say that. I'd have more respect for you if you come out and say, yeah, I want us to move. I'm looking for places to actively move to. I'd rather that than just like try and dangle this carrot. Oh, we might stay at the City Ground. We might not. Oh, I know it means a lot and changes are scary for people. We might still have it. Just be honest. Just tell us. Just tell us what you want to do, because it's just so childish and petty. Like, there's so much like the ownership gets right. I honestly think, like, obviously it's about its flaws, and we know most of those flaws really come from Marinakis, who is very ambitious, spends a lot of money, but has frequently hired the wrong people, and that's been a continuous theme throughout his entire ownership. Like, you can look at playing staff, you look at people behind the scenes. He's constantly hired people that haven't lasted or haven't worked out, they've gone, whatever. I generally think this is another example of that. Personally, I think that there's a clear conflict of interests with Tom Cartledge and Nottingham Forest, and he stands to benefit regardless. His mates stand to benefit from it, even with Toten. And yeah, it's very evident to see what's happening. I don't think you need to be a genius to sort of put two and two together and join any dots. And he can try and shut it down as much as he like. He also said that the EFL team, I think, have done more than we have since 2017.
Any team, he said.
So Brighton getting to Europe doesn't count, does it? Or
that comment was silly. It's
just ridiculous. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, he's just he's not for me. I think it's it. Wolf in sheep's clothing is the phrase that comes to mind.
Yeah, like I said, the questions from Matt on that podcast, the host, they were very good. But there was just too many. There was too much PR politician answers, I thought, from the chairman. Like I said, when he said that point, it kind of made you cringe, because, and then you know what social media is like. Then you get people want the owners out and this, that. Like, no, they don't want that. They just want it just needs to be a balanced argument. And when you're saying, and he also made the mistake of what Randall did, saying, we're the envy of so many clubs. Can you remember Randall's famous comment when we had Chris Hughton as manager, and we nearly went down to League One? So we'll kind of see what happens anyway. But Lee, what do you think, mate? Do you think we'll end up moving, or do you think we'll stay?
Well, I mean, listening to that interview, you just don't know, do you? Like you've just said, he'd make a good politician, wouldn't he? Because
did you listen to it then?
I've heard a little bit of it, and the bit I heard, I basically heard him answer two questions, and they both contradicted each other. On one hand, he's saying that the City Ground's our home, and we want it to stay as our home, and then on the other hand, he's basically saying that we want to get more bums on seats, and we want to.
Politicians answer one.
Yeah, it was basically saying that you're limited to what you can do at the City Ground in terms of development. So, I mean, that just completely contradicts the claim that the City Ground's our home and we want it to stay our home. I agree with what Christian said. I think as football fans, we just want a bit of transparency. We just want to know what they want to do rather than kind of skirting around it. But yeah, I think if you're pushing me for an answer in terms of do I think we'll leave, it looks likely that we will. I just hope we can get the right site and it's not at Toten on, a newly formed retail park as they usually are.
I would be vastly surprised if it was Toten. I do get the impression that we will. I am leaning towards now that we'll move, but I'd be vastly surprised if it was Toten. I think Toten has been sounded out as a worst case scenario to kind of gauge the reaction. Like I've said personally, you just want some honesty. If they come out, because he also said in this interview, they've spent 10 to 15 million and also now several years of trying to stay at the City Ground, which people against this will say, well, that's just a PR move. But you think, what a bloody waste of money. Whereas if they kind of come out and say, look, because we all know the City Ground has limitations because there's housing around it. Obviously, he mentioned the river, which I chuckled at. Yeah, that's been there for a long time. But we know it's got like limitation with the housing around it, hence why the Bridgeford stands the weird shape. If they come out and said, look, for where we want this club to be, the City Ground, we just can't get it up to the standard and the required capacity what we want, I think you'd probably get a few more people on board. I think you'd always get the traditionalists who say, I want to stay at the City Ground no matter what. I think your dad said he wouldn't bother going anymore, did he, Christian, if they moved away from the City Ground, I believe.
But then part of me thinks that's what he wants. I think they don't want the older fans or the legacy fans, if you like, as has been caught into with Chelsea. They don't care about them. They care about the tourists now. Well, that's the vibe I get from the club.
Well, that's just the Premier League, mate. It's and I know people won't like to hear this, but you're a customer. And that is the truth. Yeah. If I went into my personal problems with Forest last season with my season ticket, they wanted to strip my season ticket off me until I basically kicked off at them. So you're just a customer, and unfortunately, the fans who have had season tickets now for a long time, who stuck by the club during COVID, during the times when they were dreadful under Chris Hughton, etc., it's kind of like, well, you've had your turn. So if you don't want to carry on, either pay your money or basically away you go, kind of thing.
I think what
I
gets
still,
me as well,
you
like,
know, I don't expect the price to stay the same forever, but you've got to also treat them fans with some consideration because they were there for you in the dark times. And what they've got to realise as well is if there was to drop back into the Championship, which, let's be honest, is a possibility still because we're still not really an established Premier League club, the crowd will drop. It will drop. And if they was to start bad one season, it'd drop to mid-20s. And then, do you want to be sat in a ground where it's half empty? Like, you look at like Sunderland, who I think ground odds about 48, 50,000, don't
exactly,
it?
yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, it's just the honesty for me. I mean, I think that's what is probably annoying mostly, and the time scale now, it's dragged on for so long. But I guess we'll kind of see on that what happens going forward. It's a lot of politicians on both sides into making statements, and he's to blame, she's to blame. It's a lot of politics, so we'll see on that going forward. And if anything, obviously, does transpire, then we'll chat about it again. But just a couple of others. Basically, I'll run this through one each of you, because we are pushing on. So start with you, Adam. So there's plenty of players coming back to Forest from loan spells. Is there any of them you'd look at? I put a few out on our social media page. I put 5 players. Is there any of them you'd look at entirely to bring back into the squad next season, or would you be looking, saying, yeah, we just need to move these players on now?
I mean, I've been begging for Omar Richards to get fit because I just think he's got the ability, but he's just had such a weird 2 years of his life. But then, like, I seen an Olympiacos fan, I think, comment and say when he's played, he's actually been pretty good and looked decent when he's had a bit of a run of games. So that kind of gives me a glimmer of hope. So I think we've got to assess him, and I think Aguilera is someone that we assess, and whether we keep around the squad and kind of rotate and use as a player that we can kind of use as a backup and integrate slowly, a bit similar to Foden in that respect, or we loan him to a team in the Championship where he's going to get regular game time and really vastly improve. Because I think when he did play for Bristol Rovers, he seemed to be quite good. He scored on his debut, didn't he? And I think he might have scored another, but I can't remember.
I think he got some injuries, I think, didn't he?
Yeah. So he needs to either be included in the squad as a rotational player or get a good loan spell. So they're the two I'd look at. And I did say Emmanuel Dennis if we're struggling in terms of like what we could do maneuverability in the transfer market, because he's a winger. We needed a winger last season, but I think his time might have kind of passed at Forest. I think he needs a fresh start, essentially, because he didn't really light up for Watford going back there either. I mean, I think he scored like a couple of goals, but yeah, weren't as amazing. Feel sorry for people like Lewis O'Brien and that. I thought at the time he seemed like a good champion, good purchase for us, but I think he's had his problems as well at Middlesbrough. But I mean, you just never know. He might come back pre-season. He might do something, because obviously we're getting rid of Mangala. It looks like he's going to go to Lyon. So again, it depends what our manoeuvrability is like in the transfer market.
Yeah, I guess with Dennis as well, is he always used to come off that left, didn't he? And he's just not going to dislodge Hudson-Odoi, and you'd rather Alanga's better off that side for me as well. So
yeah,
but like I said, it depends what we can do in the transfer market.
We need another right winger, or one that can play both sides.
Yeah,
but a left-footed right winger would be lovely.
That's it. I think that's probably the number one target for me. I mean, obviously Dale Taylor is someone. Would you like to see him get another loan, maybe Championship or top end League One again?
Yeah, so somewhere where he might be in a team that I like chasing, or
do you look to move these players on and think they're not going to actually break in for us?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really, really tough one, isn't it? Because we've all said this. Like, now you've got to be like exceptional to break into our team. Like, whereas in the Championship, you can kind of afford to give him a bit of time, because we were just like one of them teams that were like we're just always there, weren't we? We were there for like 15 seasons, so you could give him like the platform almost. Yeah, I think Dale Taylor's got a lot of promise, but maybe not at this level, unfortunately. I'd love to see a Song get a good loan. I just think he's got a potential to be an absolute machine, but again, needs the platform. He's 19 years old. He should be out on loan to like a League One team at least. Like Mansfield might be someone that you kind of look at, build that relationship back with them, but who knows?
Under our Nigel. I know you've got a shoot, Lee, so I'll give you quickly this one so you can go, mate. Obviously, it was mentioned earlier, but we tied down Willy Bolly and Ola Aina to another year contract. So happy with that business?
Yeah, very happy. Bolly has obviously got his injury problems, hasn't he? But I think with losing Felipe, we've kind of lost that leader influence in the dressing room, haven't we? So I always think when you're going to be a club that's challenging down, let's face it, we're going to be bottom half again, I would have thought. It's always good to have a few leaders in the dressing room, so Bolly does tick that box. But yeah, it's nice to get it sorted early as well. We've not done a typical Forest and let it drag on, which is good. But yeah, it does seem to be as though it just seems like it's going to be an uncertain summer, for want of a better expression, because there's so much interest in our better players, which is a worry. But like we've said, at least we are going to be getting good money for them. As we've always said with Forest, it's how we go about replacing them, I suppose, isn't it?
I think that's the problem, isn't it? When you're in the lower echelons of the Premier League, like Palace, every summer they get at least an Eze link to other clubs, isn't it? It's just if the big boys come sniffing, it's kind of you're going to get
that's
it,
the
aren't
thing.
you?
That's the thing as well. It's like I kind of resent some of these comments that we don't think like a big club. We don't think like a Premier League club. We're always selling out better players. I hate to break it to people, but whilst we're where we are, we're always going to be at the kind of mercy of the teams higher up the food chain. It's just how it is. Like you've just mentioned, Palace, they get stripped every season. It's probably not going to
Especially
be
with
any
how the
different this
rules
summer.
are as well.
Exactly. So
They're not, the rules aren't level, are they? So
yeah.
Hopefully Bolly can stay fit, because Willy Bolly for me is probably I wouldn't say underappreciated or underrated, but it's just kind of consistent. And you'll get a 7 out of 10 from him most games, Willy Bolly.
Yeah.
That's something that kind of, we go back to Joe Worrell. Joe Worrell could have that Premier League performance. He just couldn't do it consistently. Willy Bolly, you'll just get that consistent line of, it's pretty solid. So hopefully he can stay fit, and hopefully can play some more games for us next season. Finally, Christian, just a couple of rumours really to finish the pod on. Callum Hudson-Odoi was heavily linked with Spurs. I did see a reporter from down at where I think it was Ben Jacobs on Twitter said that is actually not true, and they're not after Hudson-Odoi. But then Sky did come up with a report saying that 3 unnamed Premier League clubs are after Hudson-Odoi. We all want to keep Hudson-Odoi. There's no doubt about that. So my question for you really is, what would you value him at? With the reported Chelsea have got a 50% sell-on clause to take in consideration. And do you expect Hudson-Odoi to be here next season? Is the other one?
I'm optimistic he will be. I think, again, it entirely depends. The sell-on clause, if that's true, obviously just complicates things massively, because
50%'s a lot now.
Yeah, like obviously, for example, if you say like, "Oh, he's 20 million," obviously you're getting half of that. So it's sort of like,
you reckon like 7 million profit on him.
Exactly. Well, in that case, it's not really worth it to the club, is it? You might as well just keep him. So, I personally would value him at about 30, 40 mark, I'd say, around that sort of bracket. I think, again, like Spurs passing up for 3 million last season is incredibly stupid of them. But I think, just the fact that 8 goals and assists, he's got back into form now. I think that in theory, next season he could really kick on and become the player that everyone thought he could be. So obviously now he's seeming to realise his potential. Yeah, I'd say about 30 to 40, but I'm hopeful he will stay. I really am optimistic he'll stay, because I think he's a brilliant footballer. And yeah, just fingers crossed the Vultures can stay away and sign other players instead.
Would you? I'm going to ask you a question. This will be a controversial one, just to wrap it up. Do you rate him as much as Brennan Johnson? Bearing in mind he went for, what was it, 45? Same age as well. Yeah. I guess Brennan obviously hasn't had his injury problems.
Johnson's faster, obviously. I think that Hudson-Odoi is probably a better player in terms of like actual raw ability.
Technique,
And I think now when Hudson-Odoi, I think what I don't think we noticed was how hard working Hudson-Odoi is. I think maybe he wasn't so much at Chelsea, but he seems to really, really want to develop and push on. He has that mindset now of like, I am going to succeed, and I think that makes, as we know, it's a talent and hard work sort of cliche, isn't it? But I think,
because reading social media, because we've paid 3 million for him, I think people's valuations are a bit skewed. Whereas, for the signing for the same money as Elanga, which I would have probably said was fair value in the summer, people I then think would be pushing towards that Johnson mark of like 40 million. But because we've only signed him for free, it's like, can we actually go to OTT on him? But you've got to realise in the Prem, look at Moises Caicedo at Brighton, signed
exactly,
him, 4 million, went for over 100 odd million. I'm not saying Hudson-Odoi is worth actually isn't, but yeah, I think you'd be wanting a substantial amount for us to part ways, but
especially with how much we value him in terms of like he's a key player for us now.
Yeah, very key player.
Like I've been having an argument with a Tottenham fan. He's like, "Oh yeah, we're going to pay 40 million for Morgan Gibbs White." I'll go, yeah, and the rest because he's our most valuable player.
There's no point in arguing with football Twitter idiots on X.
He just keeps sending me like really random like news articles from like I don't know BN Sports or some rubbish.
Well, this is
get in the bin, mate.
Well, this is like what me and Lee said. When you're at a club at the lower echelons, you're just going to get your best players linked, aren't you, to the big fish?
Of course you are.
They'll leak it to the press and try and upset these players. That's how they do, so they can get them for cheaper. But anyway,
our eyes in the South American market again.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see if Nathan can come up with a few gems again. Right, so that's it then for the awards for the season. Well, I think we'll be back next weekend with kind of the big quiz for the season, and then we'll probably have a little bit of a break then for the Euros and that, and let everyone enjoy the summers. But so thank you very much for listening to this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll stick out the awards on his Twitter. Come on, you Reds.